Hi, everyone. It's Ashley Grunwald with Hunter Row Real Estate. I hope you're doing well. I wanted to today talk about a topic that seems to be pretty popular, which is the Enneagram. And so I was hoping that maybe some of you have either taken the test or started looking into this personality assessment so that you could share some of your comments, thoughts just about the Enneagram. I was actually raised talking more about StrengthsFinder and Myers-Briggs. So this is a new assessment for me. So today when I say Enneagram 101, the basics, this is literally the basics for me as well. So I started reading a book that was interesting to me. So I thought I would share what I'm learning from it with you today, since it's just such a popular topic for people. So the book that I started reading is The Road Back to You, and I got it from the library, so if you want to check it out, by Ian Morgan Cron, if I'm saying that correctly. But that's where all of this information that I'm going to talk about today comes from. So if you want to get that book from the library, once I'm finished with it, you can. But there's so many great books, I think, out there about the Enneagram. But again, it's just been a topic of conversation. I've had so many friends, coworkers, family members ask, what's your Enneagram number? And I haven't known enough about it to be able to have a conversation. And I thought this is such a great way to discuss with the people you love and care about and work with, what type of personality you have and what they have, so that you can work together better, live together better, communicate better. I've always been pretty passionate just about the way we're wired differently. And so this is another tool to use to understand one another better. And again, I think it just helps us really in our relationships with one another. So I know there's a ton of you out there that are great at the Enneagram and know lots about it, and I want to learn from you. But today I'm going to just share with you what I know, which is not a ton. But I do have a couple resources for you. If you haven't taken the free test, I would encourage you to do that. I'll put the link up on the screen. So I just sent this to my husband and said, will you please take this? I really, really want to know your number, because I really relate with my number, and it's helping me understand myself better. And again, I think it helps if we understand our spouse and our kids and our in-laws and our coworkers. So I would encourage you, if you haven't already, to take this test. It's free. Quick, and it might give you some insight into the Enneagram. It looks like Melissa said this book was life-changing for her. So Melissa Albright has read this book, and it was really helpful for her. So I'm so glad someone else has read it. I took it into my counseling session last week and said, gosh, this is speaking to me and helping me understand some of the ways that I work. And I feel pretty self-aware of myself. But this is opening my eyes even more so. So I hope that just this conversation will be helpful to you. From the beginning, there are 9 different personality styles in the world based on the Enneagram, and one of which we naturally gravitate toward and adopt in childhood. And this personality type, what we adopt in childhood is how we cope to feel safe. Okay, so there's 9 of these. We naturally gravitate towards it, and we adopt it in childhood for coping and safety. So interesting. Okay, so each type or number has a distinct way of seeing the world and an underlying motivation that powerfully influences how that type thinks, feels, and behaves. Okay, so when we're thinking about these 9 different personality styles, they're different ways of seeing the world. One example was like, you could say number 1 looks at the world with a pink lens, and number 2 through a blue lens, 3 a yellow lens. Like, we all see the world slightly different based on these different personality styles. So it's so interesting to think that our perspectives are all different. And based on the Enneagram, there's 9 of these. So each type or number has this distinct way of seeing the world. And then underlying motivations that influence our thinking patterns, our feelings, and our behaviors. So we all adopt one of these types in childhood. And that's what's so interesting, is that our children right now are figuring this out for themselves. So it's so developmental right now and so important for us to understand this so we can hopefully help our children as they navigate their personality. There are an infinite number of expressions of each number. So you might think, gosh, with all the millions of people in the world, how could only nine different personality types? Well, they all express themselves different, and then each number expresses itself differently. So I have a friend that she is the same number as me. I almost told you my number. The same number as me, and it expresses itself very differently in our lives. And our Myers-Briggs type indicator assessment shows that we are polar opposites. So we have the same Enneagram number, but Myers-Briggs numbers, letters are the exact opposite. So again, very, very interesting how it can express itself. So don't get too caught up on how could there only be 9 different personality styles. On this geometric figure, you'll often see that's associated with the Enneagram, there's 9 points to it, but they're all interconnected, which is very interesting. So they're not separate, they're interconnected. Each numbered point on the circumference is connected to 2 others by arrows across the circle, indicating their dynamic interaction with one another. So again, I would, if you can listen to this while looking at that diagram, it would be super helpful because it'll help give you a visual of this geometric figure, these 9 points on it, and that how there's these interconnections. And we'll talk about all of them. But one thing I want to make really clear is that there's no personality type that's better than another or worse than another. Each has its own strengths and weaknesses. And I think some people may gravitate away from personality assessments because they're concerned that they're being put in a box, or that they would be just identified as less or not as good as something or someone else that has a different personality. So I want to be real cautious to make sure that you're aware that all 9 of these are good. They all have their strengths. They all have their weaknesses. They just make up all of us in a very different way. So now I want to go through what those 9 types are. I'm going to give you a brief description of each of them, not anywhere near enough for you to figure out which one you are. I'm playing the game right now of trying to figure out which one my husband is. And the book is pretty clear that it's not a good idea to try and guess other people's. I mean, you can. And again, I'm trying to guess my husband's, but allow them to self-discover, figure it out, take the test, read about this versus you telling them what they are. Because it may not be super accurate, and your understanding of their motivation may be very different than what is true. So let's go through these 9 different types. And as I was looking into this, there's different names for each of these. So if you hear one of these and think, well, that's not what I thought it was called, there's a couple different names. I'm using the specific words that Ian used in his book, but I've seen other authors use similar names, but different words. So let's start with type 1. That's the perfectionist. These people generally are ethical, dedicated, and reliable, motivated by a desire to live the right way, improve the world, and avoid fault and blame. So that's your number 1, and that they're generally called the perfectionist. Okay. Type 2. This is the helper. Generally warm, caring, and giving. They're motivated by a need to be loved and needed, and to avoid acknowledging their own needs. So that's number 2. That's the helper. Then you have number 3, the performer. Success-oriented, image-conscious, wired for productivity, and they're motivated by a need to be or appear to be successful and to avoid failure. So that's your number 3, the performer. Type 4, this is the romantic. They're creative, sensitive, moody, motivated by a need to be understood, and they experience their oversized feelings and avoid being ordinary. Okay, so that's the romantic, type 4. Type 5 is the investigator. These people are generally analytical, detached, and private, motivated by a need to gain knowledge, conserve energy, and avoid relying on others. The investigator, type 5. Type 6 is your loyalist. These are people that are committed, practical, witty, worst case scenario thinkers who are motivated by fear and the need for security. That's your loyalist, type 6. Type 7, the enthusiast. Fun, spontaneous, adventurous, motivated by a need to be happy, to plan stimulating experiences and to avoid pain. That's your enthusiast, type 7. Type 8 is your challenger. They're commanding, intense, confrontational, motivated by a need to be strong and avoid feeling weak or vulnerable. This is your challenger, type 8. And then the last one is type 9, the peacemaker. These people are pleasant, laid back, accommodating, motivated by a need to keep the peace and merge with other and avoid conflict. The peacemaker, type 9. So those are the 9 different points on the geometric shape, and they go around the circle. Again, if you can look at this visual image while reading this, I think it will be super helpful. Be very careful to not just assume who you are and who someone else is, because there's a lot to these. These were very brief descriptions that I just wanted to share with you to give you just a baseline for what the Enneagram suggests each of these are. Okay, now again, I'm not an expert. I'm learning about this as maybe some of you are as well. So even sharing this with you, this is not from memory. These are from my notes that I took from reading this book. So the next part of it, so you have your 9 different types, and then they divide the numbers into 3 triads. Okay, so this is where we start to get a little deeper into it. Still, hopefully, Enneagram Basics 101, but this is a little deeper. So your triad is another way of describing how you habitually take in, process, and respond to life. Okay, so there's 3 different triads amongst the 9 different types. And your triad is another way of describing how you habitually take in, process, and respond to life. So the 3 triads are anger, feeling, and fear. Those are the 3. So let me go back. The anger triad, those numbers are associated with number 8, which was the challenger, number 9, the peacemaker, and 1, the perfectionist. Those personality types are generally driven by anger. Interesting. Then the next triad is the feeling or heart triad. And those personality types are 2, the helper, 3, the performer, and 4, the romantic. And they're driven by feelings. And then the third triad is the fear or head triad. And those personalities are driven by fear. And those are number 5, the investigator, 6, the loyalist, and 7, the enthusiast. So first you find out which is your type. Second, you find out based on that type, which is your triad. And that tells you how you take in, process, and respond to life. Is it through anger? Is it through feelings? Or is it through fear? Okay, so that's the second level of the Enneagram. The one thing that this author specifically said that they liked about the Enneagram is that it takes into account the fluidity of our personality because it's constantly adapting to our circumstances and life changes. So his understanding was that the Enneagram is more fluid in nature, taking into account how life and circumstances can influence us. So it does talk about each type and how we can be in a healthy space within that type, and moderate space, and then an unhealthy space. So we don't want to use these types as weapons to say, oh, you're being such a 3. We could think of someone as a 3 type that maybe is in an unhealthy space. Or you might say, gosh, that person as a 2 is so well adapted to their personality and mature in their personality. They're in a really healthy space. So know that there's no good personality. It's just how mature or well adapted you are into each of the personality types. Okay. In different times of our life, different seasons, I think will ebb and flow on how healthy we are within our personality type. So when you're looking at the diagram, you can see each number has a dynamic relationship with 4 other numbers. So you might think, what's your number? And that's all you have to know. But actually, there's 4 numbers that you will relate to specifically. So again, it's getting a little deeper into understanding the Enneagram. So each number touches the 2 on either side of it, as well as 2 at the other end of the arrows. So again, if you can look at the Enneagram diagram, it will help. It's a circle with the 9 numbers around it. So if you think of the one number, there's 2 numbers on each side of it, and then there's 2 arrows that point to your number. So essentially you are dynamically involved with 4 total numbers. Your number doesn't change. It can just be influenced by these other numbers. And you can even look like one of these other numbers from time to time. So you may have heard someone say, what is your wing number? And that's one of the numbers on the side, either side of your number. Again, your number doesn't change, but those wing numbers may influence your type. Is it making sense so far? Hopefully you're following. Again, if you're here and you want to share your number, please do. If you have questions, let me know. Again, this is all from this book, The Road Back to You by Ian Morgan Cron. I got from the library. So if you're interested, check it out. But there's lots of great books out there on the Enneagram. All right, so let's jump back in. So we have these wing numbers. These are the numbers on either side of your main number. So again, if you're looking at the diagram and you're the number 4, your wing number would be 3 or 5, okay? And you may lean toward one of these 2 wing numbers and pick up some of its characteristics, some of its energy, and some of its traits. So knowing not only your number, but also the wing numbers are really helpful to see which one you lean more towards, okay? So somebody asks you, what is your Enneagram number? 5. What is your wing? 4. Something like that. Again, you'll have to dig into each of these to understand yourself and the number better. And one thing he recommends, which I would agree, is asking people that know you really well, a spouse, a friend, family, a spiritual mentor, their input on what they see in your life after maybe taking the test and kind of trying to determine your wing number. So you've got the wing numbers, and then you have stress number. This is the number your personality moves towards when you are overtaxed or under fire. You're stressed. It's indicated by the arrow pointing away from your number on the diagram. Okay, so when you look at the diagram, which arrow is pointing away and what number does it point to? Again, that indicates the number that you move towards when you are overtaxed or under fire. That's your stress number. It's a good way of understanding what your life might look like when you're overwhelmed. This other number is your security number. This indicates the type your personality moves toward and draws energy and resources from when you're feeling secure. This is indicated by the arrow pointing toward your number on the diagram, okay? So security number is the arrow pointing toward your number. The stress number is the one pointing away from your number on the diagram. And the security number, again, indicates the type your personality moves toward and draws energy and resources from when you're feeling secure. Okay, so those are 2 additional numbers in addition to your 2 wing numbers to consider. So there's lots of information here, well beyond just knowing the one personality type number for you. Okay, anybody have any guesses on what number they think I am at this point? I see Melissa says that she is a 2. And again, if you remember, number 2 was our helper. And no, I'm not surprised by that at all. You're right. This is the warm, caring, giving, motivated by need to be loved and needed and to avoid acknowledging their own needs. And Melissa just reached out to me and asked if she could do a meal train for me. So that's a perfect example of 2, the helper. So thanks for sharing that. That is awesome. I love it. So moving on, we've got our type number. We've got our wing numbers, stress number, and security number. Now, here's an interesting piece that I hope you don't zone out for. It says that every number has a unique passion, which would be a really good word to use, or what some would call a deadly sin that drives that number's behavior. This is a weakness or a temptation to commit what we've heard of as the 7 deadly sins. So in the book, he talks about there's the 7 deadly sins, plus they add fear and deceit. Okay, so every number has a unique passion or a deadly sin. So I'm going to go through all those for each number. And then each personality's deadly sin is like an addictive, involuntarily repeated behavior that we can only be free of when we recognize how often we give it the keys to drive our personality. So I'll say that all again. This is the part of us that we can give the keys to drive our personality, or we can understand it better to try to have awareness around it so that it doesn't become a deadly sin, that instead we can take the reins back from it consuming us or being the negative side of our personality. So each type, so there's 9 deadly sins or passions that can be temptations or weaknesses within our personalities. So as long as we're unaware of our deadly sin and the way it lurks around unchallenged in our lives, we will remain in bondage to it. It's so true. If we don't know about it, how can we work on it, fix it, be redeemed from it? So awareness is so key. One of the goals of the Enneagram is to manage this deadly sin or passion or temptation or weakness rather than allow it to manage us. Okay. So first it would be just awareness of it. So I'm going to go through each number again, and I will share the deadly sin behind it. So 1s would be anger. Their deadly sin would be anger. And remember, they were the perfectionist. So their deadly sin or temptation is anger. 2s, that was that helper we just talked about. Melissa shared that she was. Pride can be her or their deadly sin. And again, would love to hear what that looks like in your life, but that could be the part where it's not wanting to express their own need, but helping others. So pride comes in. 3s, that was that performer. There's this deceit. They are trying to put an image out that may not be accurate. They want to look more successful than they may actually be. 4s, remember 4s were the romantic, and their deadly sin is envy, which makes sense, right? They're the ones that are a little moody, creative, sensitive, but have oversized feelings. So they could struggle with envy. And then 5s, now this one is tricky. I don't even know how to pronounce this word. Avarice is their deadly sin. And remember, 5s were the investigator, the analytical mind. And then 6s, their deadly sin is fear. And 6 was the loyalist. And they had that deep need for security and were motivated by fear. So that makes sense that their deadly sin would be fear. 7s, their deadly sin is gluttony. And remember, they're the enthusiasts. They're the fun, spontaneous, life of the party, motivated by need to be happy. That makes sense. They could maybe overindulge. 8, their deadly sin is lust. And remember, 8s are the challengers, commanding, intense, motivated by a need to be strong and avoid feeling weak or vulnerable. And then the last one, 9, remember, they are the peacemaker. They are trying to avoid conflict, and their deadly sin is sloth. So maybe not dealing with some of the challenges that come up for them. So again, it's awareness. This isn't to beat us up. It's to know what is our temptation or where could we lean in weakness with each of these numbers. One really good piece of advice he gives is try not to type yourself solely on the basis of behaviors. And this is why it's so, I think, dangerous to look at someone and see their behaviors and say, oh, they're a number 5 or they're a 6. Because he's saying your number is not determined by what you do so much as by why you do it. Not what, but why. So again, motivation, and it's hard to know people's motivation. He gives the example of several different numbers might want to climb the corporate ladder or the professional success ladder at work, but their motivation for doing it could be very different. So again, it could be for appearance reasons, or it could be the vision of the company and helping others. There's so many different reasons or motivations that we can't just look at behavior, or we have to look at the motivation behind it. Also, he says, don't rely too much on traits to identify your type. Instead, consider the underlying motivation that drives the traits or behaviors of each number to see whether it rings true to you. So you could read online or in these books just a whole bunch of traits associated with each number and think, oh, that's me. But he's really suggesting you think about the underlying motivation, which is just going to take a little bit more time, a little bit more investigative digging. It will help you identify your type if you think back to what you were like at the age of 20 rather than who you are right now. That was a really interesting tidbit for me, trying to think of what my life and who I was at 20. If you can do that, that's an interesting exercise in and of itself, because he said, even though your personality type never changes, it's just more clear than at that time than in any other part of your life. So thought that was interesting. So you can think back to yourself at the age of 20 rather than now. And then he also said, it's important to think about the way you act, think, and feel at home. And my guess on that is where you're most comfortable, where your true colors show versus in your work setting or in a social setting. So trying to think about the way you act, think, and feel at home when you're trying to figure out your type. So when you're 20, how you act at home, your motivation, those are the things that are going to help us figure out our type a little bit better. And then look for the type that best describes who you are, not the type you'd like to think you are or have always wanted to be. I think that's always the challenge with personality assessments, is that there's a type that we like and we want that, but that's not who we are. So we've got to really embrace who we are. And then as you try to figure out your type, it's great to ask, like we said, close friends, spouse, spiritual mentor, someone that can help you give clarity to maybe some of the things that they see. And then I love this quote from the book, and I think my husband would love it, because he's a person who generally thinks that personality assessments are putting him in a box. It says, the Enneagram doesn't put you in a box. It shows you the box you're already in and then how to get out of it. And I love that. It's like, be who you are, but then also be the best version of you by understanding your motivations so you don't get stuck in it and being an unhealthy form of you. So I thought that was really awesome. Nicole just shared that she's 9. So she is that peacemaker, which is awesome. Would love to know your wing. And then we do have Melissa guessing that I think you may be a 3, Ashley, and you are correct. Melissa, I am a 3, and I think a pretty strong 3. And that was the performer, achiever. So you're right, dead on, Melissa. But anyway, if you listen to this after the live session, please share your number, your wing, your stress number. Any of those types of things would be so awesome. If you haven't taken the free test, I'll put it back up on the screen. Go take the free test. Have your spouse, your best friend, have a conversation over this. It's so fun and interesting to understand just how we are and the motivations behind our personality. So I am so thankful to get to go through this with you guys. Thanks for listening, and hope to see you soon. If you have questions, leave them in the comments and I will get back to you. But go do some research on your Enneagram number, and let's talk again soon. All right. See you.